The fog is lifting. Clarity is calling you forward. Welcome to Forward in Freedom. I'm Tanya Johnson. This is where awareness becomes power. Let's move forward in freedom.
Have you ever looked back on one of the greatest accomplishments of your life and realized you didn't get there alone? Today, I want to honor some extraordinary people whose kindness, excellence, and servant hearts turned my 7-day trek up Mount Kilimanjaro into one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. This episode is my way of saying thank you. When people see a photograph of someone standing on the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, they usually see one person, one accomplishment, one celebration. But that picture never tells the whole story because behind every summit, there are people. People who encouraged you, people who sacrificed, people who served, people who believed in you, people whose name may never appear in the picture. Yet without them, the picture never would have existed. When people ask me what I remember most about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, they're usually expecting me to talk about reaching Uhuru Peak, the highest point. But that's not where my mind goes first. My mind goes to the people, and I'd love to introduce you to a few of them. I had the privilege of climbing with Kilibrati Expedition, an incredible trekking team whose motto is one team, one dream. The first time I heard those words, I thought they were simply a company slogan. 7 days later, I understood they were describing their culture. There were 7 members on our crew, 7 people working together so that one climber could pursue a dream. Every road mattered. No one competed for attention. No one acted as though their job was more important than someone else. They worked together beautifully. Every morning before I stepped outside my tent, someone had already been awake for hours. Breakfast was ready, water had been prepared, the day's plans were in place, equipment had been organized. While I was getting ready for the day's climb, the porters had already begun carrying loads up the mountain that most of us would struggle to carry for even a short distance. Day after day, they did it with smiles, with joy, with genuine encouragement. Not because the work was easy, but because they wanted me to succeed. I never felt like a customer. I felt cared for. There's a difference. One is simply providing a service. The other is making someone feel valued. People forget what we do, but they rarely forget how we make them feel. As you listen, I want to ask you a question. Who are the people behind the scene in your own life whose faithfulness helps make your life possible every day? Sometimes their work becomes so familiar, we forget just how much they do. As the days went on, I found myself noticing more and more of the people working quietly behind the scenes. One of those people was our chef. Honestly, calling him a cook doesn't seem fair. Every day, he somehow prepared delicious breakfast, delicious lunch, delicious dinner, delicious snacks, and hot drinks in conditions that most of us could hardly imagine cooking in. He also thoughtfully accommodated my pescatarian diet every day. That wasn't just meal preparation, that was hospitality, that was excellence, that was someone taking pride in caring for another person. More often than we realize, the greatest acts of sacrifice aren't the ones everyone notices. They're the quiet, consistent acts of care that help someone else keep going. And then there was my guide, Mambo. Somewhere along the trail, I started calling him Mambo Mountain Man because after watching him for a few days, it became obvious. He really knew that mountain, and it showed. With more than 10 years of guiding climbers from around the world to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, he knew the trail, the weather, the pace, and how to help people keep moving when the mountain became a difficult climb. What impressed me most about Mambo wasn't simply his knowledge of the mountain, it was his heart for people. He knew when I needed encouragement, he knew when to slow the pace, he knew when to let me catch my breath. Many times, leadership isn't about saying more, sometimes it's about paying closer attention. One of the things that I'll always admire about the Kilibardi team is that they truly live their motto: one team, one dream. The guy couldn't do his job without the porters couldn't do their jobs without the chef couldn't do his job without the entire crew working together. Everyone depended on everyone else. No one was trying to be the most important person on the mountain. Their success was seeing someone else succeed. I wish we saw more of that in our world because what happened next reminded me just how powerful that kind of selflessness can be. As I made my way toward camp after reaching the summit, I was physically exhausted, emotionally drained. My dream had become a reality. And then I looked up. Members of the crew were making their way towards me. Some had climbed part way just to meet me. One reached for my backpack, another placed a fresh juice in my hands. There were smiles, celebration, encouragement, and genuine joy. Not because they had reached Uhuru Peak, but because I had. For a few beautiful moments, their greatest joy came from celebrating someone else's accomplishment. By the seventh day, we were no longer strangers. We had shared conversations, laughter, long days on the trail, words of encouragement, quiet moments. Little by little, trust had been built. And when it was time to say goodbye, several members of the team told me, "We will never forget you." I paused because I was thinking the exact same thing. The truth is, I'll never forget them. They may see themselves as ordinary people. I don't. When I look at that summit photo today, I don't just remember standing on the summit. I remember the people who helped me get there. Perhaps that's one of God's greatest reminders. Our biggest victories often rest on the quiet faithfulness of people who never ask for the spotlight. Before we move on, I want to leave you with this question. Who could you intentionally honor this week the way someone once honored, encouraged, or believed in you? We often underestimate the power of the simplest words. I appreciate you. Thank you. You made a difference. how they can stay with someone for a lifetime. This episode is simply my way of doing exactly that. As I reflected on that journey, one truth kept rising to the surface. Here's this week's Freedom Nugget. Every summit has a story, and every story has people behind it. Never forget the hands, the hearts, and the quiet acts of service that help you become who you are. Honor them, appreciate them, let them know their faithfulness has made a difference. You may never realize how deeply your words of appreciation can encourage someone to keep serving you with excellence. Years from now, people may not remember everything you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. I know I do. I don't just remember reaching the summit, I remember the people who helped me get there. This is what one team, one dream looked like. At first, I thought one team, one dream belonged only to our expedition team. I was wrong. Along the mountain, strangers became teammates. We came from different countries, different cultures, different professions, different generations. Yet every morning, we all woke up with the same goal: take the next step, keep climbing, reach the summit. One of those people was Luis. Throughout the trek, whenever our paths crossed, we greet each other the same way: see you at the summit. At first, it became our own tradition. But as the days became more demanding, those words carried a deeper meaning. They reminded me to keep going. They reminded me that someone else believed I could get there. And every time I said those words back to Luis, I hoped knew I believed the same thing about him. Moments like that happen every single day. I remember one particularly difficult section of the climb. A group of German trekkers looked at me and said, "That stretch was tough, but you made it." Then one of them offered me a piece of candy and said, "Here, this is a piece of German candy. This will give you a boost." I thought about that moment many times since, not because of the candy, because of the kindness behind it. One of the hardest days of the trek, a complete stranger chose to make someone else's day a little lighter. And somehow that made the climb feel a little lighter too. Then there were the words that echoed all across the mountain: Jumbo, hello, poly poly, slowly, slowly. When I thought about those words, it didn't matter where someone was from. Those two words became a language we all understood. A reminder to keep moving, to be patient, to care about the people climbing beside you. One of my favorite memories happened at the final base camp. Luis had already reached the summit. I was preparing to leave for my summit attempt just a few hours later. When he saw me, he asked if he could take one last picture together before we went our separate ways. He knew this would likely be our last encounter. In just a few days, two people from different parts of the world have become part of each other's story. That photograph reminds me that some of life's most meaningful connections don't always take years to build. Sometimes they happen because two people simply choose to walk the same journey with kindness. Looking back now, I don't remember every mile of the trail. I don't remember every rocky section. I don't remember every steep incline, but I remember the people. I remember hearing, "See you at the summit." I remember the unexpected piece of German candy. I remember hearing, "Jumbo, poly poly." I remember laughter around camp, quiet conversations along the trail, celebrating one another's progress, looking out for people we'd only recently met. And then it hit me. When the trek was hard, the people, oh, the people, made it possible. Not because they could take the steps for me, not because they could climb the mountain for me, but because every act of kindness, every shared laugh, every reassuring word, every moment of genuine care gave me the strength to take one more step. There's a quote that has stayed with me for years. Charlie Tremendous Jones once said, 5 years from now, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet and the books you read. After climbing Kilimanjaro, those words carry even greater meaning for me because mountains don't just shape us, people do. Every conversation, every act of generosity, every unexpected connection leaves something behind. And I came home a fuller person because of the people I met. Standing on the summit was unforgettable, but the people are what I'll carry with me. That's the kind of community that we're building together here at Forward in Freedom, a place where people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different seasons of life come together with one common purpose: to lift one another, to remind each other that difficult seasons don't last forever, to celebrate progress instead of perfection, to choose compassion over comparison, to keep moving forward together. Because none of us were meant to climb life's mountains alone. So this week, I'd like to invite you to do something. Think about someone who helped you through one of the hardest climbs of your life. Maybe it was a family member, a friend, a mentor, a coworker, or someone whose name you've never forgotten because they showed up exactly when you needed them. Reach out to them this week. Send a text, write a note, make a phone call. Tell them specifically how they help you keep climbing. You never know, your gratitude may become the very thing that reminds them their kindness mattered. And if this Tanzania series has encouraged you, I'd love for you to share these episodes with someone who's climbing a mountain of their own. Because in the end, one conversation, one kind word, or one shared story is all it takes to help someone find the courage to take the next step. Until next time, I'm Tanya J, and this is the work of moving forward in freedom.